But the reason I wanted to do the politics thing is because I think it's a topic that gets like wildly blown out of proportion when people talk about bodybuilding. I think everybody who's ever competed in a show and not taken first place has thought about whether or not politics were involved, and most people just come right out and say it. Um, the longer you're involved in the sport, the more times you hear politics be the scapegoat for the reason why someone that you're talking to didn't win their show. And it's like, what makes you think it's politics? No, and you don't want to, I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to literally put you on the spot and be like, okay, if it was politics, explain to me how. How is it politics? Explain to me what evidence you have that the reason you didn't win was because of politics. I'm not going to say that to you. I'm going to let you think it's politics. But, in an overarching conversation like this, I kind of want to point out that it almost never is. Do politics exist in bodybuilding? Probably, yeah, to some degree. I think politics exist in the bodybuilding judging realm, but at the local level, no, not really. They kind of don't. If you lost the show, it's one, either because you deserve to lose the show, you just didn't look as good as everybody else, and that, to be clear, 95% of the time, that's what it is. You just didn't look as good as you thought you did, at least compared to whoever was up there. Maybe you looked amazing, and it just so happened that other people showed up to the show and looked better. No one ever takes into consideration that despite the fact that you worked really, really hard and put in all this effort and followed your diet every single day of your entire prep and trained really hard and got 8 hours of sleep and all this other stuff, that like maybe someone else was just better than you. Maybe you did. It's the first thing you got to take into consideration is judges are not following your journey. So they don't give a shit how hard you worked. No matter how much blood, sweat, and tears you put into it, you still may not look the best. And it's a hard pill to swallow. That's probably the toughest thing about bodybuilding is you can literally do everything right and still get your ass handed to you sometimes. And the easy thing to do is just to claim it was politics. The guy who beat me, the girl who beat me knew the judges. They're sponsored by this sponsorship that sponsored the show. So, you can see why they won. It has nothing to do with that. It almost never has anything to do with that. So, like I said, 95% of the time, it's just that you didn't look as good as the person or persons who beat you. The other 5% of the time, especially if you're competing at the local level, it's just bad judging, not politics. There's a big difference. And I'll be honest, there are bad judges. There's definitely bad. I personally know people who are judges in NPC shows, and I know tons of people who are also judges in like the OCB and the NANBF and whatever. They're not all good. They're not all good judges. So the first course of action would be to assume probably just bad judging. You have pro card. I don't have pro card. Anyway. Yeah, the first course of action is assume that it's bad judging. It might have been bad judging. That could be. If you want to use that as an excuse, that's fine. I've had that happen with a million clients. I've had clients, the one thing I can say and I can rest my head on at night is the fact that I have clients who, what am I trying to say here? I kind of lost my train of thought. I can be unbiased. I guess that's where I was going with it. I have clients who get on stage, and even if I think they look great, I can tell you when someone else looks better. I'm not ashamed to say it. Like, I've done this long enough where it's like, dude, I'm not going to be delusional and just assume that my client looks the best no matter what. It's a sport that involves a lot of human genetics. And so your client could do everything right and look amazing, and those check-in pictures they're sending you look fantastic and all this other stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're going to win every single time, because you have no control over what the other competitors in the show look like, and they might still look better than you even if you did everything right. They may still look better than your client even if your client did everything right. There's even been times when I've kind of openly admitted I've had clients who did win, and I thought that the other person should have beaten them. So it happens. It definitely happens. But here's the thing. It's not politics. Your assumption that it's just politics every time you don't do well just makes you look really weak-minded. Because let's unpack what politics means when it comes to local level bodybuilding judging. So there's like typically about 7 judges, right? 6, 7, 8 judges. And this is something that I think very few people actually know. But when the judges use their scorecards, right? Let's say there's 6 people in the class. They just put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a 6 next to your name. And that coincides with where that judge has you placed. Your top score and your bottom score get tossed out and don't even count. So let's say you're friends with 2 judges, or let's say let's say you know any number of the judges. The chances are you probably don't know. I'm not a judge. I would never be a judge. I think there's no money in it, and it's a thankless job. And this is the thing. Like, if you're a judge, well, the only criticism or the only feedback you're ever going to get is that you're bad. No one ever tells you you're a good judge. Even if you get it right 100% of the time, that means that a very small percentage of the competitors are happy with where you have them placed. So like 80, 90% of the people who do the show think you suck, even if you do it perfectly. So I'm not a judge. I'll never be a judge. I would never want to be a judge. And this video is part of the reason why I would never be a judge, is because everybody assumes that you're either cheating or you suck at judging. Like, those are the 2 options that you basically have as a judge. You either are cheating or you suck. And that's not actually true, but that's how everyone labels you. And it's not the case. Again, bad judging, common. It happens. Don't get me wrong. It definitely happens. It's most common at the local level because, one, obviously, they're not paying these judges hardly anything. So it's kind of whoever they want to do it, or whoever's willing to do it. And again, I would never do it. But aside from that, there's like massive discrepancy between the way people look on stage. You get a local level show, you're going to have like 5 people in a class, and like in a lot of cases, none of the 5 actually fit the criteria properly. So you're just like doing your best to kind of pinpoint who looks the least bad, and it's like someone will post a picture of the winner and be like, how did this person win? And it's like, because everyone else looked even worse than that. It's that simple. I've heard an argument with implementing AI into judging to remove subjectivity and have set guidelines on who wins and who doesn't. Yeah, I've heard that argument too. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. One, there's pros to that because it does remove some subjectivity, but it can't ever remove all of the subjectivity. That's the thing. Even AI can't be objective because a lot of it really does come down to personal preference. Like if you had Prime Jay Cutler competing against, I don't know why I can't think of his name. God damn it. The one, Sean Roden. If you have Prime Jay Cutler against Prime Sean Roden, who wins? Most people are going to say Jay Cutler, and I would agree. But Jay Cutler's much bigger. I don't know that his conditioning was better. Shape was nowhere near as good. You're comparing apples to oranges. And so it's like, what part of the objective criteria are we going to put more emphasis on? AI is still going to have to subjectively decide. One reason why I think it's could be a good thing is because judges don't get paid worth of shit in the first place. So it's not like we're taking away important jobs if we were to have AI do it, or even have AI be a partial component of it or whatever, maybe be like a tiebreaker or something like that. So I get it. I think that's something that could be implemented. I could tell you this. Yeah, AI along with humans. Yeah, I could see that. I could totally see that. I can tell you this, the IFBB and the NPC is such an archaically run company. It's not going to happen anytime. If it ever happens, it's going to happen long after it should have already happened. Everything the IFBB does from a business perspective is incredibly outdated. Unbelievably outdated. These people don't know how to run a fucking business. That's why every single year the Olympia has like 50 different things that all of the fans have been complaining about year after year after year that would be really easy to implement that they don't do, including the timing and everything. But anyway, I do like the idea. I definitely think it's worth opening discussion for and brainstorming ideas, maybe even using AI to help brainstorm those ideas to implement AI in the judging to improve the subjectivity. But again, it is a subjective sport. It always will be. That's the thing, is like there's no way to eliminate subjectivity, which is again why there's just no way that you can make the claim that politics were the reason you did or didn't do well. I feel like that can be said for many aspects of bodybuilding, things being outdated. But what do I know? It is. There's so much stuff about bodybuilding that's outdated. I mean, including a lot of the information a lot of coaches and trainers are using for their clients, and the way people train and the way people diet and all this other, the way people implement cardio. A lot of that stuff's wildly outdated. And like I come out and say that and people are like, well, that's not what works. It's like, okay, keep doing it the way they've been doing it forever and continue being the same as they've always been. We're never going to evolve and get better at any of this stuff. Yeah, I remember there was a gym owner at a gym I used to train at. Paula, you trained there too. That's where we became friends. His like biggest thing was like there were so many suggestions people were giving for the gym. And his answer to all of them was, we never had to do that in the past. And it's like, okay, yeah, that was the past. You didn't have to do it in the past. You do need to do it now. And guess what? That gym went out of business shortly thereafter. Let's see. Can you explain what politics would even mean? Why do people always blame that? Yeah, no. So politics, basically, what people always claim is that so-and-so knows or is affiliated in some way with, a lot of times it's not even any specific judges. It's like, I've had people claim that my clients have won shows under the NPC Midwest blanket because I'm friends with the owners of the NPC Midwest, Jack and Ann Tatone. Well, let me be real clear. Jack and Ann and me, and I'm happy to say, I'm confident saying this. I would say it if they were watching. We've had a lot of really big conflicts in the past. We've got into shouting, cussing each other out matches too. So, and I've had clients do well at their shows when that was going on. I've had clients do well when we were friends and go to the Blues game together and go to their Christmas party every year too, but that doesn't mean it's politics. Jack and Ann promote the show. They don't judge the show. I rarely ever know. I know some of the judges at some of their shows every now and then, but what most people don't understand is that your top and bottom score get wiped out anyway. So if there's 7 judges, only 5 scores actually count. If you get a first place and a third place from a couple of the judges, and then everyone else has you in second place, you're going to take second place. That score that has you in first place gets tossed out, and the one that has you in third place gets tossed out. And then your average is what your other scores are. So you would have to, in order to have a political advantage at a local bodybuilding show, you would have to know or be in some way affiliated with all of the judges. In most cases, those judges are coming from all over the country. You probably don't know them. And they would all have to be exactly on the same page. Here's the caveat. There's no money in local bodybuilding. You don't win anything. So what are you doing? Like you're paying all this money just to enter the show and get tan and all this other stuff. Now you're also going to pay like a meaningful amount of money to 7 different judges so that they give you first place where you win literally nothing. Think about how stupid that sounds. That's insane. At the Olympia, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of money involved at the Olympia. So is there politics there? Probably. There's probably some degree of politics there. But the judges probably know all of the competitors competing at the Olympia. So like who gets preference over who? The amount of money that would really have to be thrown around would offset your prize money. So it's, because you don't make that much unless you are the men's open Mr. Olympia winner and you get the, $600,000 or whatever. But everyone else makes pretty moderate amount of money, even if you win in any other category. Just a handful of judges at Midwest shows, or are there many different judges? So Jack and Ann's shows, it varies. Like they do have a few people that are kind of standard on their judging panel, and I think that's pretty common for most promoters. They have some people that are kind of mainstays. A lot of them are local that judge most of their shows, if not all. And then there's always other judges that kind of come in and judge from other places. You ever show up like, oh no, this judge is here? No, I never do. And to be clear, there are some judges that are just bad that I know that are bad that'll be on a judging panel. I'm like, oh God, so and so's judging. I'm not gonna name names, but it's like so and so's judging. They're not good judges. But the worst case scenario with a bad judge is just that they're just going to go with whatever the other judges say. And that's actually a really common thing. That's something that I do think needs to be fixed. I think that every judge should have a completely independent opinion of what they're judging up on that stage. Not like, I'm not sure which way to go. Who do you have winning? Okay, I'll put them too. I think that defeats the purpose. Then we only need one fucking judge. But in order for politics to actually exist at the local level, a lot of things would have to happen, and all of them are really irrational. And when you start to unpack what those things are, you start to recognize, like, oh yeah, there's definitely no politics here. Bad judging sometimes, sure, it happens. It happens for sure. But more often than not, far more often than not, if you don't place where you think you should have placed, it's because other people looked better than you. And at the end of the day, even if they didn't, even if you look the best, even if you do win, especially if you don't win, then you go back to the fucking drawing board and get better. That's when you decide. That's when you go, and it's the same thing as in business. Like, you run an ad and it doesn't perform well, and you're like, okay, shit, that ad's not doing well. How do I make it do well? How do I improve upon this ad to get more people to be aware of my stuff and want to buy it? You got to fix your ad. And it's the same thing with your physique. You go up on stage and you don't win. You don't say, it's politics, I'm perfect. You say, damn, I got beaten. Why did I get beaten? How do I make that so that it doesn't happen again? And then that involves alterations to your training or alterations to your nutrition, or sometimes it's just more time. Sometimes it's like you did everything right, but you just got to do it for longer so that you show up and do better. Sometimes you look fantastic and a genetic anomaly just showed up and beat you. It's happened to me. My last show ever, dude. It was the hardest pill to swallow in the world because against my will, I was basically told that I had to retire from the sport due to my heart condition. This was about 5 weeks out from my last show, almost exactly a year ago. It was pro qualifier, and essentially I kind of knew, okay, this is it for me. This is my last show. My last chance to get a pro card. If I don't get it here, I'll never get it, which is brutal. It's tough to hear and to acknowledge. And I looked my best. I brought everything. The most conditioned I've ever been, biggest I've ever been. I looked fantastic. I was really happy with the look. I peaked really well. And a freak of nature fucking showed up and beat me, and I took second place, and I didn't get my pro card, and now I never will. Did I bitch about it and say it was politics? No, because I'm not an idiot. The guy was better than me. He was huge. He was like 5-6 inches shorter than me and 260. He was massive. So it's like, if you're in shape at all with that much muscle, you're going to win. And he did, and he deserved to. Round of applause to him, you know. Unfortunately, I can't go back to the drawing board and come back better, although I would love to. But it wasn't politics. He just was better than me. So sometimes you just got to come to terms with, like, people are going to be better than you. You're not the best in the world at this. It's very rare. You know, if you're competing at the Mr. Olympia contest and you place top 3, okay, then maybe you could be the best in the world, and the judging was bad enough that you should have won and you didn't. But in any other situation, no matter how hard you worked, no matter how much blood, sweat, and tears went into it, no matter how diligent you were with your diet and your training and everything, people can just look better than you and you didn't win. And that doesn't mean that the judges were bad. It doesn't mean that it was politics. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means someone looked better than you on that stage. Then go get better. Then it's your job to go get better, not bitch about it. How is it actually going to help you to, even if it was politics, okay? No one else knows nor cares. So, like, what's the point of, like, pointing that out? And does that mean that you don't need to get better? Does that mean that you just, okay, I only lost because of politics. I need to just stay the same because I'm the best. Think about how fucking stupid that sounds. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Are there different judges at local shows versus national shows? Yes. Some local shows will have like 1 or 2 national level judges at them. Most do, I would say. Like the show that you're going to do will have at least 1 or 2 national judges for sure. Probably the same ones that'll be at nationals the following weekend. And that can pose a little bit of an advantage for you once you get to the national level. If a judge that judges national level shows sees you compete and do well at a local show, they're more likely to remember you. But again, you're still going to have to look better than everyone else to win at the next level too. So at the end of the day, I guess really the main key point that I'm getting at is like, even if you did lose because of politics, so what? Now what? Are you done? Like, if I would have lost my last show, which was my last opportunity to get a pro card, and it would have been politics that was the reason, first of all, how do I prove that? Like, what evidence do I have? None. But even if I knew for a fact somehow, even if like a judge tipped me off after the show and was like, hey, I just want you to know, all the other judges on the judging panel said out loud that you looked the best and you should have won, but they gave it to the other guy because they know him. That would have sucked. That's about the only opportunity, because it's like, okay, I can't come back and beat my former look anymore. I'm done. I'm retired. Can't do it anymore. That really sucks. But that's not what happened, and that's never what happens to anybody. Like, think about how much, put yourself in a judge's position. You're getting paid like $100 by the organization to show up and judge a show. Okay? What would it take for you to judge somebody favorably that didn't deserve to? Because you're putting your reputation out there, by the way. Like, what is your, like, what motivation, like, what would it require of you to be like, okay, I'll give it to this person who didn't deserve it? Is it a pretty big lump sum of money? Like, do you think people have enough money to really pay off all of those judges? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, what's my most, okay, kind of off topic, my most memorable time as a coach? I don't know. I have no idea. I have a lot of them. Damn, I really don't know. I mean, that's a really tough question. Katie last year at NPC Universe, because she was moved to the center of the first call out, where we thought, you top two take a pro card at Universe, and between prejudging and finals, the anticipation, because we really didn't know. A lot of times you're pretty certain you're going to get it, depending on where you get called out. Like, if you're the only person that gets moved into the center position of an odd number call out and you never move out of it, it's like almost guaranteed you're getting the pro card. But like 3 different girls got moved to the center position at her show, and they all spent about an equal amount of time in there. So at finals, we had really no idea. We were like, before finals, we were like, could be first, could be second, which are both a pro card, could be third. She got third. So, which that sucked. But it was, I guess, memorable due to the fact that it was like there was just an insane amount of anticipation wondering whether or not she'd get the pro card. I don't know. But that was really recent. That was back in July. There's like a million different things that I could kind of cite as memorable things that have happened as a coach, I guess. But I don't know. That ranks up there, I guess. But anyway, back to the judging thing and the politics thing. Like, there's just so much that would have to go into a judge actually politically giving the wrong person a win. And there's just very little incentive. I just can't imagine what incentive a judge would have to really do that, much less like 5 to 7 of them all having that motivation. And again, when the reward at a local show is just a fucking trophy or a medal, like, how lame do you have to be to pay enough money to 7 different people, for those 7 people to give you a placing that you didn't deserve? Especially when your payoff is a fucking medal that's probably going to collect dust in another room. The reason winning bodybuilding shows is cool has nothing to do with being given first place. It has everything to do with accomplishing the best physique that you're capable of accomplishing. So even if you do that and you don't win, you should be just as proud, especially if you deserved not to win. I'm just as proud of the way I looked at my last show, despite the fact that I took second place, as I would have been if I had taken first. Yes, I would have had the pro card. I would have had the accomplishment and the photo of me holding the big card over my head. It wouldn't have changed the way I looked, which is the whole point of the sport. Have you ever had a client, male or female, win their first national show? No, but I've had a bunch of people come real close. Yeah, I've had a ton of people. that have been within a placing or two of it at their, whether it be their, here's the shitty thing, dude, is I've had a bunch of people go do their first national level show and come really close and then not compete anymore after that. Most frustrating thing ever. I give them shit. I still keep in touch with all of those people. Like I maintain pretty good relationships with all of my clients, and so I still keep in touch with several of those people, and I give them shit all the time. I'm like, dude, there's still time. You can still get up there and continue doing this. Like I had Blake took 4th at nationals. He was 24. He's like now entering the prime of his bodybuilding career, and he hasn't competed since, I guess he did it 2020 was the last. So it's been more than 5 years since he's competed. 6 years ago, it was his first national show, and he missed the pro card by 2 spots, and then just didn't do any more shows after that. Didn't do any more national shows after that. So anyway, yeah, that guy. Yes, Blake, Young Muscle STL. Yeah. I give him shit all the time, dude. He could have been a pro forever ago if he just would have kept getting up there and doing it. Him not winning, like taking 4th place at 24 years old at your first national level show, which by the way was kind of a controversial placing. Well, these aren't my words. Like every publication that covered nationals that year said Blake should have been 1st or 2nd, which would have been a pro card. Because he didn't take 1st, he was like, I'm not good enough. I need to grow. I need to grow. I need to grow. And I'm like, no, you need to. A lot of people, yes, do need to grow. And everyone needs to grow. But like, you need to get back up there and compete against that. You need to get back up there in front of national level judges again, because then you'll just win. You don't need to go back to the drawing board when you're this goddamn close, dude. You need to go back to the drawing board when you're 14th place, not when you're 4th. So anyway, yeah, like I had him and Austin Williams and Sarah Martinez and Christine Kowalski and Ashley Davidson and Reed Glenzer. God, there's so many more that have like all on their first time ever doing a national show were like real close, and then just were like, I don't care about bodybuilding anymore, and then just didn't do it. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for sure, because all of them would have gotten pro cards if they just kept going. Have you ever had an experience with a client and judging that you genuinely felt due to something political? No, never political. I honestly, throughout all of my bodybuilding career, I've never once thought to myself, this client didn't do what I thought they should have done, and it was because of politics. Never thought that. I have seen on many occasions where it was really obvious that the judging was just really bad. And that's what it usually is. Like don't get me wrong, there are times when the wrong person wins. That's like objective. I've been to a million shows where you'll have like true novice, and open, and like bikini, we'll just say, for example, and all 3 of those classes have the exact same people in them. And like in true novice, one girl wins, and then novice, that same girl takes like 3rd. I've literally seen somebody win their novice class and then take 5th in their open class. Same girls in both 2 classes. That's not explainable. Like no judge can explain how that's not possible, because it all happens within like 10. Yeah, I know, it's insane. It all happens within like 10 minutes of each other. So I would never even ask a judge for an explanation of that, because anything that they say is going to be bullshit. That can't happen. That's not possible. So that's just bad judging. It's not politics. Like, what would be if it were politics? Then it's like, then why did you get it right one time and then wrong another? It's bad judging, and again, that sometimes happens. And that's unfortunate. There's nothing you can do about it. And that's the bitch of competing in a subjective sport, is like, you're just going to have stuff that goes wrong sometimes that shouldn't go wrong. But it's not politics. So, and again, more often than not, it's just because they were better than you. So like, people have a really hard time coming to terms with the fact that other people looked better than them. The big thing is like, when you're on stage, you don't have the perspective of the judges or the crowd. You know what you look like in your mind, and you know what those people that you're up against looked like backstage, where they weren't posing and they didn't have the lighting on them or anything. So if you think that you looked better than someone, explain how. You can't, because you don't have the perspective. The judges are judging the people that are all in front of them doing the same poses at the same time under the same lighting. And so they have the most accurate assessment available of like what's actually being judged. You as a competitor don't at all. You have no idea what you look like in that lineup next to other people. So, you know, there's no way for you to get off stage and say, I know I should have won that. You can have an idea of whether or not you will based on where you get called out, where you get placed on the stage, but you have no idea what you look like next to anyone else until you can see pictures. And most of the time you're going to be looking at cell phone pictures because that's all that's going to be available to you. And of course, you're going to make every assumption in the book, which will, of course, be, I look better than them, because you're a little bit biased towards yourself. After all that work and all that blood, sweat, and tears that went into that prep, you don't think you'd have any bias towards yourself? Of course you do. I mean, come on, dude. So to automatically jump to the conclusion that it's politics just makes you look really weak-minded, is really what it comes down to. You look really weak-minded when the assumption is automatically the judges were wrong. My assumption of what I looked like in that lineup next to those people has got to be right. And the fact that they got it wrong automatically means that it's politics, and then they obviously have some kind of a connection. That's everybody's favorite thing to do is create some kind of create some kind of a connection between the person who beat you and the judges or the promoter or what gym they train at or whatever. It's always stuff like that. Well, he trains at this gym and they were a sponsor of the show, so that's why. It's like, oh my God, dude. No. Not how it goes. As a matter of fact, I can give you guys a story where the exact opposite thing happened. I have an ex who was a top national level bikini competitor, and she competed at an NPC Midwest show. I knew 3 or 4 of the judges on the judging panel personally. The show was sponsored by First Form, as am I, as was she. We were both sponsored by the biggest the biggest sponsor of the show. The week after the show, we went to the Blues game, the professional hockey game in St. Louis, with the promoters of the show. We had every different political advantage you could possibly imagine, especially due to the fact that she was, one of the top national level bikini competitors in the country at the time. And this was a local level show. As a matter of fact, when she showed up, a bunch of other people were like approaching me, like, because nobody knew she was doing it. We kind of just kept it a secret. And a bunch of people kept approaching me like, oh, thanks for putting her in the show. Now we know who's going to win the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. She ended up taking 14th place. 14th place at a local show. There was like 17 girls in the class. It was a huge class. I wouldn't even say it was overly competitive. There was maybe 3 or 4 girls in there that looked pretty decent. The one who won, I admit, should have won. She deserved to win. My ex should have been second place. And that was going to be really disappointing if she would have taken second. It would have been disappointing due to the fact that we went in there expecting to win. But the girl who beat her was also a national level competitor and deserved to win. She won the overall as well. They gave her 14th place. And as a matter of fact, they even rejudged finals. Because so many people, it was so egregious. So many people were like mentioning to the judges specifically, like, I think you fucked this one up. That they agreed to just rejudge finals, and they did. And she still took 14th place. Where were the politics on that? We had every political advantage you could ever possibly have. And she was in the last call out. There was 3 call outs, and she was in the last one. They may have even been 4. I think it was 3. And I think she was in the 3rd of 3 call-outs. No politics. If it were politics, she would have easily won the show because she looked good enough to win the show. Would have been hard to argue. If she would have won, it would have been hard to argue otherwise. But no, 14th place. No politics. Trust me. If there were politics, that would never have happened. Bad judging, yes. It was definitely that. Like, I think anyone who was at that show, biased or unbiased, would agree. I've never had so many people approach me and be like, dude, I don't know what that was about. I've had other discrepancies with clients where no one else cares. No one else even notices it. Like, it bothers you and you assume everyone notices it, but 99% of the people in the crowd are like, I don't give a shit. I'm waiting to see my friend or my daughter or my, husband or whatever. They don't really care what's going on. But tons and tons of people kept stopping me and saying, dude, what the fuck was that? I didn't know. But all I know is that it wasn't politics. The girl who won didn't know any of the people that we knew, and she won. So, anyway, the politics thing, it's not a thing. It just doesn't exist. So, it didn't really have a whole lot to share on that topic. I wasn't going to go into too much depth with it, but if anyone has any questions or wants me to kind of rant on anything, just let me know so I can. You got to get off. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. See you soon. Yeah. So if there's anybody else in here right now, feel free to give me a topic to run with real quick, or a question or something like that. Like I said, I don't have a whole lot prepared, but the main thing is just like you have to be realistic about what you're actually bringing to the table. You're not the best every single time. No one always wins. If you assume that you should win every time you do anything, then first of all, you're doing the wrong sport, because there's obviously no challenge if you just win all the time. Unless you're like winning the Olympia, that's different. There's no level beyond that. Then you just got to keep getting better and make sure nobody beats you. But I don't think there's any Olympia winners consuming a lot of my content. So at the end of the day, you can't expect to win every single show, because you have no control over who else shows up. And you have no control over what the judges say. But one thing that you can be sure of is the judges are probably not giving you harsh judging due to politics. And you have no control over what the other people in your class end up looking like. So it's your objective to just bring the best physique that you have possible, and wherever you place is just where you place. That is it. That's the end of it. And then when that show's over, win, lose, overall win, 5th place, whatever you do, then the objective is get better. Either way, regardless of whether or not you won. And if you can come back the next time and be better than you were this previous time, then you won. Quote unquote, you won. Winning means you brought your everything you had control over, you controlled, and you did the best you possibly could. Somebody might not have even worked nearly as hard as you and just still looks better than you, and if they show up and they beat you, who gives a fuck? You did everything that you were capable of doing. The worst thing you could possibly do is just claim that it was political and that the judges just downgraded your placing because of politics. You sound stupid when you say it. It's not a thing. Doesn't exist. Again, at the Olympia, it probably does exist there, and it's annoying there. But that doesn't apply to you. So there's no money. There's no money on the line. There's no incentive for judges to give you a bullshit placing. And even if there was, how many of the judges do the other people even know? Maybe none. Usually none. So where are the politics coming from? Unless you can say definitively, this person knows all of those judges, and talk to those judges ahead of schedule and incentivize those judges with something very tangible and specific, probably a big lump sum of money, which I've never heard of anybody ever getting caught doing that ever in the whole sport. Again, at the local level, I've never heard of anyone actually doing that. I've heard people making up rumors about stuff like that. Never heard of anyone actually doing that, and I don't know why they would. So, again, at the end of the day, the politics thing's got to go to bed. There's no politics. If you lost, you either deserve to lose or the judges were just bad. And it could be that the judges were bad, and that's fine. If you want to blame bad judging, that's fair. Sometimes it really is just bad judging. That exists. It's not politics. It's just such an absurd assumption. And to be honest with you, as soon as people tell me that politics were the reason they didn't win, I automatically know, 1, they have no idea what they're talking about, and 2, I don't even need to see pictures of what they looked like. I already know that they didn't look better than the people that they claim to look better than. If you're claiming politics, I promise you it wasn't, and I promise you, you don't even have to show me pictures. I already know you lost and you didn't look as good as you thought you did. And as a matter of fact, don't even put me on the spot and show me the pictures, because then I'm going to have to be that dickhead that's like, yeah, dude, I know you're really emotionally invested in this outcome, but you placed exactly where you fucking deserve to place. Sorry. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit there and be on your side and be like, man, they really fucked up. You either deserved a place there or you didn't. And again, there's just no incentive for judges to be political. So just chill out on that and just do better. Just do better. Keep improving. If you were that close to being better, then all you got to do is have a really productive off season. You should improve so much that the next time you show up, it's going to be very difficult for you to lose. Or just claim it was politics and that you should have won and don't do the sport anymore because you're afraid of the politics giving you placings that you didn't deserve. When you have no evidence that the politics ever existed in the first place. It sounds to me, when you're in that position, it sounds to me like you really don't give a shit about bodybuilding or doing well or getting better at bodybuilding. You just want to show up at a show and have the judges give you first place so that you can say, hey, I got first place. And that's probably, that mentality is the exact reason why you didn't get first place and why you're blaming politics on, as the reason why you didn't take first place. So anyway, I'm going to log off. I didn't have a whole lot prepared for today, so I'm going to log off here. Yeah, that's it.